Blessings to the spirits of these places, where I am, where you're at. Blessings to the land, the water, the plants, and the animals. Thank you for holding space for us today. Blessings to the original inhabitants of these places. For me, it's the Yellow Moo, Ramaytush, Ohlone peoples. I encourage you to figure out, if you don't already know, who the original peoples of your lands are, and to give honor, reverence, and reparations to them. And may all your descendants know joy, justice, sovereignty, and their land back in this lifetime and in all future generations. Blessings to our spirits, guides, guardians, and divine forces that walk with us on this work that we do together. Thank you for holding space for us. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for guiding us on our paths. Blessings to the mycelium, the spiders, the web builders, and the webs, the one consciousness that holds us all together. Blessings to the black flame ancestors, the anarchists, the spirits that walk with us, that remind us of revolution and change, and that a better world is possible for all of us. Blessings to the mother, the moon, the earth, all of the energies, the water, the subconscious that ties us all together, that flows with us all together, that reminds us of who we are. May all the messages that come through be for the highest good of all, and be clear, truthful, whatever we need to know. Blessings. Ashe. Aho. Welcome. I like to start with a blessing because that gives a container to the space and creates a situation where we all know what we're doing together, that there's intention set for this, there's gratitude set for this. It's all very important. And I like the idea of normalizing things like this a little bit more so that we just train ourselves to get in the practice of reverence. I think that's really important. And so what we're doing here is a little thing that I like to call liminal broadcasts. And for those who don't know what liminal is about, the dictionary definition of liminal is that which occupies a position at or on both sides of a boundary, threshold, or transitional space. When I think of liminal, I think of everything that exists in between, whether we're talking about race or we're talking about multidimensionality, the broad spectrum of things. These are the things that are in between, and these are the things that I think that we need to talk about, and particularly I feel called to talk about because of who I am, what I'm doing, the work that I've been doing, the work that I hope to continue to do. So the liminal broadcast essentially is a space where physical reality, spiritual reality, magical reality, multidimensionality come together and we just talk about it. And we just talk about how we are going to make it through what's happening right now. Because obviously there's a lot happening right now. Obviously the entire world is on the cusp of either revolution or extinction. And it should be an easy choice, but doesn't seem to be always, and that's okay. So a lot of things that I want to get into here is how we can exist in between this thing that I talk about a lot in my tarot readings and with people, that right now we're in a position where we need to exist inside of ourselves, focusing on ourselves, understanding our bodies, understanding what our bodies are telling us. And also, we have to exist in the reality of everything is happening around us at all times. And so much drama, so much anxiety, fear, so many things that are dangerous actually for our physical being. And we have to somehow figure out how to change that outside situation by going inside of ourselves. And people say that all the time, but what does that actually mean? How do we actually fundamentally hold that? It's not easy. And I feel like I'm starting to get somewhere. And I've absolutely dedicated 10 years hard to this work. And I had to have actually a near-death experience in order to really 100% focus on this work. And even that, I'm not 100% focusing on this work. I'm 80 to 90% at best focusing on this work, and then struggling with getting distracted or overwhelmed or caught up in my own physical pain and not knowing how to deal with that. But the fact of the matter is, I've witnessed healing in myself. I've witnessed healing in other people. I've seen people turn their lives around. I've seen myself turn my life around. And these are important conversations I feel like I want to be having. And I'm not having as much as I would like to because I am forcefully sequestered. As of 4 months ago, I had a whole path I was excited to go on. And now the path is completely different, though I have learned recently that I was meant to be on this path. And that's fine. So I'm moving forward with what I've got. And what I've got is this, me reaching out via more of a long form project in speaking about the connectedness of everything and how important that is, and understanding not how to get so overwhelmed by it. And I know that that's a lot. But it's important to at least begin to think about these things if we aren't already deeply on the path of thinking about these things. And I think that a lot of people, if you found your way to me at this point, you've probably been thinking about it a lot and figuring out how to manage your day-to-day reality with a larger scope reality of how do we actually create a revolution, but not in a way that kills us. Because we've already gone down that route and it's not the way. We need more functional mutual aid and connectivity and empathy and compassion and care for each other, care for lives, not just our own, but plants, animals, all of the above. Everything on this physical planet is a part of a giant ecosystem, and we are merely cells in this ecosystem. And so we must go inside, get ourselves right, in order to go outside and create something better. But I want to stay away from the idea of creating something better, like changing the world. We are taking on way too much trying to change the world, at least speaking for myself. I spent a lot of my life hell-bent that I was going to somehow change the world. And it didn't matter. A lot of times I felt that I would change the world by my passing. And so I was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to die, because I knew when I died, that was going to make a difference. And then I almost died, but I didn't die. And I had to confront the situation that in this life, I need to live. I need to share. I need to connect. And what does sharing and connecting, cultivating relationships and touching lives mean in a time of global pandemic that, because of the way that we are handling the global pandemic, will probably last so much longer and be so much more murderous than it ever had to be. Yet still, we can be here, those of us who have the privilege of having homes and water and food, like, should be basic, and we could give that to everybody, but we're unable to do that because people don't want to share. It's really as basic as that. People just don't want to share. And so all of these tangents, which I love to do, come back to the fact of it's so important for us to learn to heal. And how can we learn to heal if we are stuck in whatever binaries, polarities we're stuck in, bouncing from one side to the other? And this is speaking from my own personal experience, because the whole reason that I came up with this idea of the liminal broadcast is because I am broadcasting from my space in the liminal reality, in the perception of whoever looks at me is what I am to them. And I am also what I am. I am a mixture of this physical being and the consciousness that is everything. And I am playing myself out as this physical being and trying to find a way to express myself to other physical beings who are playing out their own stories, but are actually a part of the larger consciousness also. And this is why this is so important to me, and why throughout this podcast, I plan to weave in and out between stories of me and stories of things that are broader than me and encompass so much more than me. And I would love to bring people into this situation and have more conversations about this, because I think these things are really, really important. And I think that a lot of people are struggling with them as more and more people are mixed. We are all mixed at this point. And there are people who, particularly, Black people, who will be perceived Black. But even in that identity, there's so many kinds of Black. And there's so many spectrums that people are existing on, and everybody's just like wanting to feel held and connected and a part of something, and we end up fighting each other because we're different and we're fighting each other for our differences. And then we have all of these structures built into our society that hold us in these patterns of detriment, hurt, pain, disease. And how do we bring this all together so that we can heal ourselves and heal the environment and live symbiotically on the earth instead of fighting against it? It's hard. It's hard because there's a lot of programming that we have to chip away at. So I'm asking people to join me on this journey of chipping away at all of the programming and chipping away at different aspects of reality so that we can believe that there is more than just the physical reality. I keep coming back to this because it is so, so important to me and has been so pivotal and life-changing for me. The fact that I don't have any specific spirituality that I felt aligned to because I was so in opposition of religion, dogma, anybody that told me what I had to believe or what I had to do for whoever's God. I didn't want to hear any of it. And it took me a long time to really understand the fact that I was running all of my energy off of my own physical energy. I was not utilizing the spirit realm, the higher consciousness, the spirits that come for our highest good, our ancestors that are looking out for us, all of these guides who are with me all the time, have been protecting me all the time. I have gone in and out of consciousness of them all the time, but I wasn't working with them consciously because I didn't have any of the frame of reference of religion in any other way than a white supremacist, patriarchal punch to the throat. It said, don't think too hard about any of this, just roll with it. That don't sit well with me. It never has. I have a revolutionary spirit. I've always had a revolutionary spirit. Nothing's ever going to stop that. Except for losing this body. But as far as I can tell, I'm going to make it a long time in this body. So that means it's time for the revolution to come. And I'm really excited about this time because I think we're really seeing what's happening. We're really seeing the veil being lifted over and over and over again. And sure, there's plenty of people who can't bear to lose their privilege at all. They can't even fathom the idea of losing their privilege. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can't understand it because it's going to slap you across the face regardless, because this is what time we're in right now. We really actually do not have any luxury of excess time given the way that the earth both was collapsing in on our species, like species dying, collapsing into us. Like it is and was inevitable that we would kill ourselves by our ridiculous ways of being in this world. But instead, global pandemic happens, locks us in, shows us how quickly the earth can heal itself without our ridiculous ways of being. And so we all really need to take note of that. We need to, first of all, take note of the ability to heal, because what happens on the macro can happen on the micro. So we're talking about if the earth can heal so fast without our terrible ways of existing at odds with the earth at all times, and it can heal so fast, we also, on the micro level, can do that. And then on the micro within us, we can work on ourselves and heal those too. We have so much access right now. We have so much access to so many things. The University of YouTube, the free access to EFT. Like, look up EFT. That has been an amazing resource for me recently, and amazing teachers that I'm working with doing Reiki and medical intuition and Akashic records readings. Like, there's so much access to so many healing modalities that exist outside of purely Western spectrum. And all it requires is open mind and belief and faith in something that maybe you don't understand right away. And so in this situation, I'm really asking for leaps of faith. I want people to take leaps of faith with me and to begin to imagine actually a reality that exists outside of the hellscape that we have created here. How many people are still enslaved right now? How many people are still being murdered for whatever identity they choose? How many people are being murdered for their skin color? How many people are in cages right now? How many people are just getting bombs dropped on them indiscriminately? How many people are being forced into refugee camps and their land taken away from them? How many genocides are happening? It's a global situation. It's overwhelming when you start stacking up all of the things that are destroying us and killing us and at odds with each other at all times. And yet still we wake up in the morning, we do the best we can, we make the calls that we can, we donate when we can, we reach out, we give when we can, because some people do still believe that this sharing, and I think that it's actually more people than not. I think that it's just the big, bad whoever gets the most media attention. They're the ones that are picked up the most because they're shoveling this fear-mongering on all of us. And we have to remove ourselves from it. We have to remove ourselves from it while also being aware of it. Ooh, I'm telling you, I couldn't do any of this. I couldn't do any of this focusing on the macro and micro at the same time without meditation, without my spirits, without my guides, without everything that conspires to keep me alive. I'm always grateful, and I want to always encourage people to do whatever practice resonates with you, because honestly, we're all going to be so much better for it. And so another reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because of my specific place in identity in this body. I know for a fact that I have been privileged because of my light skin. I've been privileged because of my proximity to some other race where everybody's asking me, what are you? What are you? What are you mixed with? Nobody actually cares. Doesn't matter if I told them, they wouldn't listen. They wouldn't, or if they did listen, they'd be like, wow, so exotic, cool. But there's something very important, and it plays into this liminal aspect of me about the specific lineages that I've come from. And I don't know much about them because I haven't had access to ancestral knowledge much more than doing a trade for a tattoo and a genealogy report. And that was actually really interesting because that was the most information I've gotten really about my family. And so one side is Puerto Rican, full Puerto Rican, descendant of slaves, slave trade brought to Puerto Rico, Black Puerto Ricans, slaving on an island, 500 years of colonial rule that continues to this day, and just a rich people full of love and gratitude and light, and also just so colonized. And then we have this other side, the white supremacist side. I mean, grandma, Sicilian, don't know much about her, very much stifled under the patriarchal rule of that side of the family. But the European ancestors on that side, particularly my grandfather's side, no good. Murderous white people. One of my most vivid memories when I was a kid, I was about 9 years old. My father brought out this flag, Korean flag. And in the flag, there was a hole, a bullet hole, and blood. And he showed me a picture of this person's family. So apparently, this person, my grandfather, killed him in war, in the Korean War, and they have their flags underneath their uniform. So he took the flag and he took the picture of this person's family. And that right there, to me, perfectly encapsulates the horror of white supremacy. The horror, the pure horror of not only murdering, sure, whatever reason you went to the army, I literally don't care, because from all other accounts, my grandfather was pretty abusive, and then they were abusive down the line. But you murder somebody, and then your inclination is to steal from that person and take the family photo of that person. It didn't really dawn on me at that moment how intense that was. I was just like, okay, interesting. But looking back on it, it really makes me think about them, that side of my family. And I don't have any relationship with my father. I don't know what has happened to him. Doesn't really matter. He's a super big white supremacist. But because of this weird dynamic of Black Puerto Ricans, super white supremacists, and this culmination of things that happened to create me, I don't know why I'm here most of the time. Most of the time, it feels really hopeless. it feels really crazy to be inside of myself, to know where my ancestors are coming from, and to know that literally whoever's looking at me perceives whatever they perceive. And that has run the gamut my whole life. It doesn't matter what I say that I am, because it only matters what you see me as. And I am who I am, and I'm always going to stand firm in who I am. But I notice over time that people just have their own perceptions. Everybody's just walking around with their own thoughts about everybody else and their own perceptions of good or bad or judgment of everybody else's life based on how they see them. And sometimes you get to know people, and sometimes you get to see how beautiful and dynamic and different they are. But for the most part, you're just running into people and you're having reactions. And if you're not on top of your spiritual game or meditating a lot or doing lots of therapy and taking good care of yourself and eating healthy and yada, 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 all of these things. If you're not doing these things, which most of us struggle with doing, not just because we don't want to, but because there's a whole society bearing down on us, telling us not to empower ourselves. It's not easy to do all of these things, but these are the things that lead to the healing, that lead to the grander scale of healing. And so it's really important to me that we get these messages out, that we talk about these things that are really important, that we talk about how to connect with our ancestors, because I'll be honest, I worked with my Puerto Rican ancestors first because they held me. They were ready to be with me and they were ready to uplift me. Whereas my white supremacist murderous ancestors, it's taken me a long time to get to the place where I feel like I'm ready to hold space for whatever fuck shit that they're going to bring into my reality. Because I'm telling you, just because we say like spirit realm is the higher realm, just because we say that spirit realm is the higher realm does not mean that all in the higher realms or other realms come to uplift everything. Not everybody, like just as spirits pass on, they still have the same, I guess you can call it karma, but I just call it like these same patterns that they're running. And then that energy moves on and it moves on. And so this is something like that I was recently talking about, past lives. I don't know if everybody believes in past lives. That's fine. I do. I definitely do. And I've had lots of confirmation, even a story that I look forward to telling everybody in the future. But for now, let's just say I believe in past lives. I think that they're significant, and I think that also it's a part of this energy that rolls forward with us. There's the parts of our energy that come from our DNA, come from our biological ancestry, and then there's the parts of us that is just energy rolling over from who knows? Who knows how we got trapped up with that energy? But we can get some understanding by going into these energies, going into them and figuring out how is that playing on my subconscious realm in this life. Because if you think about it, and not if you think about it, if you read science currently, it tells you that so much is ingrained in us via our genetics or epigenetics and what is programmed into us in the first 7 years, from conception to 7 years. Even farther before that, actually, I think that there's science coming out that says like the feelings of the father and the mother in before conception play a role in how the baby feels and how the baby comes out. There's this stuff is so deep. It runs so deep. And I really, really, really look forward to sharing more in-depth stories with you, because I think that this is just so important. And I hope that it's really something that excites other people so that we can talk about it, because I can't wait. Can't wait to talk about things like plants. I can't wait to talk about things like herbs. I can't wait to talk about things like apocalypse tips. First apocalypse tip. Number one apocalypse tip. Giving it to you right here. Berkey water filter. And if not a Berkey, do your own research and figure out what kind of water filter is similar to the Berkey. Now I'm going to tell you why the Berkey is the one that I went with after doing lots of research on water filters and different things. The Berkey water filter is one that has a dual filtration system, or you can add the bottom filtration system. So the first filtration system gets most of the main like metals and things out of it. And then the bottom filtration system gets the arsenic and the fluoride. But what this filtration system also does is it keeps beneficial minerals in the water, which is what you really need in order to absorb the water into your body. So you need the sodium, you need the magnesium, you need the potassium. And so this filter does not take those out of it, but it leaves those in so that your body can better hydrate itself by drinking this water. Another great thing about the Berkey filter is that you can put literally any kind of water in it. You could go to a stream and put stream water in it and it would come out fresh, clean, drinkable, potable water. This is really helpful in potential situations of disaster. Let's say earthquake. Let's say fire. Let's say we only have access to not clean water and we need to get water to the people. This is a gravity-fed filtration system. So you put the water in the top and then it like comes down through the system just by gravity alone. This means you don't have to run it through any faucet. You don't need water pressure in order to make it happen. You just need an amount of water to throw in there. I've been telling everybody about the Berkey water system, and I'm not getting paid for this advertisement. I wish they would. That'd be cool. Berkey, come through, because I know you guys are charging so much for your systems. But as far as I can tell, it's the best one. It keeps those helpful minerals in there. It takes out all the rest of the things. And it tastes really good. And I feel more hydrated from it because I can tell the difference when I go somewhere else and I don't have access to the Berkey. So highly recommend if you don't have like $400 to throw at it. You might have to save up a little bit, but ultimately truly worth it, particularly in California, where most of us get our water from stolen sources. Most of us get our, particularly Southern California, looking at you, LA. You're getting your water from Colorado. You're just like, at some point, other states are going to cut you off. And it's going to be a problem. And who knows where water's going to go in the future, considering like the droughts, the fire seasons. Oh God, fire seasons too. And the slave labor that we use here in order to, from our prison systems in order to fight fires. There's so many, and see, this is what I'm talking about. Liminal broadcasts. We're going through it. We're going backwards, forwards, around, looking at all of these things from all of these angles, because that's how my mind works. I see so many things and I see how they're tied together, and thinking about them helps me formulate ideas to be most helpful, to be of service, to help change this paradigm, because Lord knows we need it. We can't continue this way anymore. We cannot continue this way anymore. And I know a lot of people, my generation, Pluto and Scorpio generation, we are tired of this shit. We are ready for a revolution. We are ready for the death and the rebirth. We're ready for the transformation. We are not willing to let this slide. There's nothing that can slide anymore. It's like, if we allow this to slide, if we allow any of this to slide, if we stop looking at the entire world and what's happening and realizing that everything that's happening is also a reflection of what's happening in our lives right now. If we can't do that, we're not going to make it. We know, particularly my generation, have this keen understanding that the resources have run the fuck out. The baby boomers had their time. They did everything that they wanted to do, and now they just want to look at us like we're dumb and we can't handle anything, while they continue to rob us of not only our money, not only our resources, but our whole energy in our body. I am tired of this. We are ready for a revolution. And again, how are we going to create a revolution? We got to take care of ourselves. We got to make sure that we're doing okay. We got to make sure that we're taking care of the earth. We got to make sure that we're protecting sacred sites, that we're working in conjunction with the native peoples of anywhere that we are, worldwide. We have to work together to do this. We have no more choices. And so this space is a hub for all of the ways that everything is connected, for all of the tangents that I go on. Because I have so much to say, and I look forward to sharing this with more people and having more conversations. I think that there's so much that we need to talk about. We need to talk about death. We need to talk about extra-dimensional beings, extraterrestrial beings. We have to talk about channeling. We have to talk about meditation. We need to talk about epigenetics more. We need to talk about quantum physics. All of these things and so much more. Because these are the intersections of life. This is how we're going to transcend just suffering. And I say this like just suffering piece because a lot of us, a lot of Black, Indigenous, people of color are suffering immensely. And we all know the ways that we're suffering. And there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of things that can take our energy away or give us some kind of energy at some point. But it's not the lasting energy that's healing, that changes our life, that brings us towards synchronicity, that makes us feel good and joyful more often than not. We need to find that. We need to find that within ourselves. And there's so many ways that we can find that within ourselves. But we have to condition ourselves. We have to bring ourselves to the desire of wanting to do that, to the desire of taking care of ourselves. And finding the balance between taking care of ourselves and taking care of others. And that's going to be a constant negotiation, constant thing that we have to deal with. And I really do believe that all of those things that I was talking about, even if they seem wingnutty to you, even if they seem woo-woo to you, even if they seem outlandish and ridiculous to you, if you were brought here, if you found your way to listening to this, it's because you're a little bit ready for it. You're a little bit ready for it. And it's worth it. I think it's worth it. I think that it's worth it. I know it's worth it. If you knew who I was 10, 15, 20 years ago to who I am now, mind blown. Doesn't make any sense. How did it happen? I couldn't tell you. I can tell you, actually. It's a lot of stories. I will tell you. But for now, we're going to just focus on nothing. We're not going to focus on anything. Because anarchy, baby, I do whatever I want. I'm just talking. And you know what? This is what gets me. What gets me is, I see a lot of people doing podcasts, video casts, whatever, that aren't talking about nothing. They aren't talking about nothing that is of any consequence to making this world a better place. That don't sit right with me. No shade. Everybody can do whatever they want. Good, people, they got followers, they got listeners. Bless, 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 bless. I love you. Love everyone. But I'm trying to actually do some shit. I'm actually trying to change my life and help other people. Not help other people change their life, but inspire other people to want to change their life. Inspire other people to know that coming from a person who very much could not be bothered to care about living, I'm just doing it out of pure responsibility and respect for my ancestors and all of the hard work that they had to go through to get me here. You can turn that around. And I'm noticing incrementally, piece by piece, that I'm slowly turning that around to something more positive. I'm turning it around to something that is more fulfilling and joyful, even in times like these. Because we have to have joy and fulfillment to have this health. So we have to find this even in times like these. And you know what I've seen? A lot of white people don't have no problem finding their joy. A lot of white people don't have no problem finding their spirituality and going on these journeys because it's a privilege that they've had over so much time of accumulating wealth and resources. And I know that my Black and Indigenous and POC people are having their own experiences and are tapped in whatever ways that they're tapped in, but not as organized and structural as I've witnessed white, Caucasian, Eurocentric populations doing it. And maybe that's just because they have more of a platform, so it's more available to see them doing it. But I see so many people going to these talks, going to these conventions, what have you, listening to these people and making their lives better. I want us to make our lives better. We deserve to make our lives better. The people who have suffered from so much injustice and have so much of that in our souls. And I also, because, I'm speaking again from both sides. I have one foot in this intensely enslaved, colonized society. And then I have one foot in the people who intensely enslave and colonize society. So I see both sides of this, and I understand that work needs to be done on both sides, both decolonizing work and also understanding of how to crumble the colonizer within myself, how to crumble the impulses that come from that part of my epigenetics. It's very real, and it's something that a lot of us need to think about, because even people, there's colonized people of all shades and all walks of life. There's colonizers in all shades and all walks of life. We all have different aspects of this spectrum. We all have different privileges and different things that are oppressed within us. And we have to sift through those things and figure out how to play with them to make us be the most symbiotic part of this world that we can be. And it's not easy. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work when you have a whole society that's like, oh yeah, you gotta pay rent too. Oh yeah, you gotta pay bills too. Oh yeah, you could lose your home at any point and be homeless just like a bunch of other people out here. I don't know what it's like where you're at, but where I'm at, there's homeless people out here all the time. And we do the best that we can, but I don't even got it like that. I just got my plants, but I've been working on this room for several years now. And that's the reason why I've been able to cultivate this. And I find myself frustrated, hurt, and flogging my own self for what little beauty that I have in my life, what little joy that I have in my life, because there's people right outside of my door who are sleeping on the street, and the best that I can do is like give them some food, give them a blanket, give them some money when I can. I don't know how some people just like turn it off and don't think about that. I think about the people on the island, Puerto Rican, every single day. I think about what they are going through, their lack of ability to govern themselves, to steward the land how they choose. And I think about how that's amplified around the world. And I think about how these abusive white people in my family, abusive all the way down to my father, just like cops, like just not like military white supremacists. And I don't know how to rectify that sometimes. There isn't really a way. You just live and you try to help those ancestors in the best that you can, and you try to uplift these other ancestors any way that you can. And I think that a lot of us go through this. I know that a lot of us go through this. You're going to go through some amount of understanding that you are the oppressor and the oppressed. You are both. We are all both. We are all products of both. No matter where we are, or what we're doing, or what our skin tone is, we are all products of both. And this is that liminal reality that we're all existing in. And the fact that we're all going to need to do what we need to do specifically for ourselves to bring our health back, to bring our connectivity back, to bring the incentive to want to take care of each other, to work together with each other, because that is the only way we are going to survive as a species. The Earth's going to continue. The Earth doesn't care about us. The Earth is doing its thing. The Earth only cares about us to the extent that we are working symbiotically with it, with her. It is our job to fit into our ecosystems. It is our job to know ourselves and to work with ourselves effectively and with care and compassion. It's so simple. It's so basic. It doesn't really take anything to figure this out other than allow the simplicity, allow the truth to be the truth, allow yourself to be a part of your ecosystem, to witness where you're at, wherever you're at, and understand how you can be the most supportive to the elements, to the earth, the air, the fire, the water. How you can tap into your body, learn your chakra systems, and understand how that relates to your body, to your organs, to your mind, to your spirit. Learn how your heart is telling you so much more than you're even accustomed to listening to. That your heart is a brain, and it is an electromagnetic brain that creates the aura around you, that creates what feels good and what doesn't feel good for you. There's so much that we have to learn, and we're only scratching the surface right now. And I'm just really grateful, and excited to begin to scratch this surface with you. And so much more to talk about, diving deeper into specific subjects. And I look forward to doing that with you all. Thank you so much. Blessings to the spirits of this land, the water, the plants, and the animals. Blessings to the original inhabitants of this place, of all the places, of anyone who's listening. Blessings to the spirits of the black flame. Blessings to my ancestors, guides, guardians, and divine forces, and all ancestors and guides of anyone who's listening. Blessings to the mother and the subconscious energy. Blessings to all who turn their attention this way. May those who continue to stand with us, please do so. Thank you for your guidance and support. May all who have to turn their attention elsewhere, please do so. And thank you so much for your time and attention now. Blessings. Ashe. Aho. Farewell.